Here with me now to discuss the latest developments on the ground in Ukraine is Defence and Security Analyst, Air Vice-Marshal Sean Bell. Thanks for being with us. So there's been an attack, of course, on Kyiv overnight. Is this significant as far as what's happening now in Ukraine?
Well, yes, we're getting a series of reports, unconfirmed, of exactly what the targeting is at the moment. Normally, this sort of targeting in the city would be a prerequisite for some form of ground forces invasion. But as we've seen recently, most of the Russian forces have left the area. So it looks very unlikely that's the case. What looks far more likely is this is retribution for the loss of the flagship of the Russian fleet and the Ukrainian temerity to attack Russia away from the actual Ukraine itself.
Right, and as far as that attack on the Moskva, the Russians claim the ship was lost due to a fire on board. Of course, that's the story they want to put out there. Well, why would this lead to the strategic targeting of Kyiv, the capital?
No, it's a great question. I mean, the Russians have stuck to their story that they claim it's been lost to a fire. I've served several detachments on board Her Majesty's carriers. And fire risk is one of the most important things that the crews train for every day, literally every day. And to have a fire so serious that it causes the ship to sink is pretty unusual, particularly the timing of it. So, whereas the Ukrainians have claimed that they've shot it down using 2 Neptune missiles. If we look at that, without getting into the geeky bit of how the missiles work, generally speaking, these missiles fly at a pre-programmed course, then turn on their radar as they get close to the ship, and they go for the meatiest part of the ship, the biggest cross-section area. On the Moskva, that's where all of the missiles are located. So it would have that effect. It would target the side of the ship, the missiles would blow up, and of course would cause devastating consequences. So although the Russians are claiming it's a fire, first of all, that seems highly unlikely. And secondly, I do note that the Russian fleet have moved further south since that incident. I'm not sure whether the Black Sea is slightly less dangerous for fires as you move south. I think the other reason, for me, is that the Doolittle raids in the Second World War were where Japan was waging war on America, and it was very difficult for America to take the war to Japan. But if you recall, the effort was to target Japan by having an outrageous raid of putting an aircraft carrier quite close and a one-way mission for people to bomb in Japan. And part of that, tactically, they couldn't make do much damage to Japan. But strategically, it meant that the Japanese knew that the war was on their doorstep. And I think what Ukraine's doing here is very effectively taking the war outside just the confines, not just waiting for Russia to attack, but also demonstrating that by taking out its flagship and potentially causing disruption elsewhere, it's seizing the initiative, which is a really bright spark.
And the Russians taking it straight back to the capital, then? Yes,
unfortunately, I think you can just almost feel the frustration and anger of Putin that they've had the temerity to attack me. Right, I'm going to do some targeting up there, because it does appear to be strategic targeting. There are specific targets in the whole of Ukraine that are potentially to do with missile production or aircraft production, stuff like that. And those targets will have been pre-known to Russians for years. But why they would choose now to target them, it feels very much like a feedback for the temerity of the Ukrainian forces.
Retired Air Vice Marshal Sean Bell, thanks very much indeed for now.